Hey everyone, it's Amanda here at Inspired to Craft. Thanks for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to start working on the Lapbook that I discussed in my last video. What we're going to be doing is the spine and decorating some of the insides. We won't be utilizing these today, so I'm going to set those aside. The things that I will be utilizing today will be the two books that I have chosen. They are the same size. They're the same, almost the same width. They are by different publishers, so they're a tad bit different, but not very much. So I'm going to be using two books. Now, if you don't have two books of the same size and you want to start with the book board, then go ahead and grab 4 pieces of book board and enough fabric to make 3 spines. I also have this piece of book board. It is 9.5 by 3 inches, and I'll go over how I got that measurement. I have my piece of fabric for 1 spine. Actually, it's a huge piece of fabric that I'm going to cut out the spine for, and I'll measure that later. If you are doing the 4 book board and you need the 3 spines, then you'll need 3 pieces of fabric. We'll use that later. And then I have some distressed ink, vintage photo, and gathered twigs. I also have some 3-in-1 glue. I have a knife. I have a ruler. I'm going to be utilizing a paper cutter. And I have a couple pieces of digital kits that I've printed, as well as some cardstock that I've chosen to decorate the insides with. And I'll show you those when we get to that. I'm going to move those to the side. First thing, we're going to go over again how this Lapbook is going to look, just in case you didn't get a chance to watch the last video. I will link it down below. I'm going to have my 2 books. And the way that it's going to be is, this will be what you're looking at. If you have your book on the shelf, this is what you'll see. If you're looking at the book laying down on the table, this is going to be the front of the book. This will be the back of the book. And this will be the spine, the big spine. From the top, you can see these 2 books will make it inside for us to put our things on in. There will also be, I'm pretending like this is the spine so you can get a visual. This is going to be the spine on the back. Okay, so let me show you laying down. This is what I'm going to use for the spine, so that'll work well. To illustrate what's going to happen. So this is going to be the front of the book. When we open it, this is the left and right. We're going to open it again. There's going to be a side over here, side over there, and our spine is going to be right there in the middle. So it'll fold out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we've got the front and the back also. Now, if you're utilizing books, like I said before, you'll just need this this piece and your fabric piece to make the spine. If you're using 4 book board pieces, then you'll need triple that. So you'll need 2 of these for a smaller size and 1 big one. For example, this, I'm going to be utilizing a 3-inch spine as my main spine. If I wanted to use the 4 book board pieces, then these spines right here would be approximately 1.5 inches, maybe a little bit less. If you have different size books than me, then what you'll need to do is measure let me fold these back up so I can show you. You're going to want to measure the spines of your books that are already intact. Okay, so mine is approximately 2.5 inches, a little bit bigger than 2.5 inches. So I want my spine, my main spine, to be at least 2.5 inches. And that's to allow for these books to close. Because if you did it less, then it just wouldn't close well. So whatever your spines are on your books, you want to make your rear spine that we're making today at least double. Now this is, for me, this is 2.5 inches. I'm going to make my spine 3 inches, just so that I have a little bit of extra room in the back. Okay. And when I close it, it'll close all the way. If it doesn't, let's see, if it's too small, it'll bow out this way. If it's too big, it might leave some gaps in between here. So say I had a 5-inch spine and these were just still 2.5 inches, it would leave a big, huge gap in between these books. Now, if that's something that you want to do, then by all means. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to close and look like it's just 2 books together. So my spine is only going to be 3.5 inches. Excuse me, 3 inches. Now, because I've recorded this twice already, this is number 3, I've already measured and cut this book board. So what I did was take this book, whatever size book yours is, you'll just take it and measure the length. So from top to bottom, mine is 9.5 inches. Sorry about that ring light glare. So 9.5 inches, and that's what this is. This is also 9.5 inches. Now, the width of this is the size that I want my spine, so it's 3 inches. For the fabric, when I place it down, you'll see I just took this fabric and ripped it. I have no idea what size it is. I just know that it's bigger than my board. So what I want to do is glue this down. And after I glue it down, I'm going to make sure that there's at least, for me, I'll say at least 1 inch, potentially 1.25 inch of fabric on each side of the spine. And the reason that you want that is because you want to have a little bit of a gap, and you also want to have enough fabric to get a secure hold onto your book. The reason also that you'll want some fabric above and below is because when you're folding it, when you're putting together your book, to stabilize it, it's not going to be this big. I'm going to cut it down and I'll tell you what size I will, but I want it to fold over so that it gives the book more stability. So I'm going to set this aside. And if you remember the last video, there's papers all over this because I started it out as a different project. But I did rip the papers off and I did sand this down so that it's smooth. The fabric that I'm using is really strong. So you can see that it's very strong. It does have some texture to it. I don't know what it's called. And I can't remember where I got it. Probably Joann's. If not, I got it from a YouTuber. But if you have a fabric that you want to use that you think strong enough and sturdy enough to hold your book together, then you can use that. If you don't like the color of it, you can always paint it. So I may paint this a green color to match with the other spines, but I think that's what I'm going to use that old fabric for that you saw at the very beginning. So what I'm doing here is using 3-in-1 glue. I know it's exhilarating to watch me put some glue on some board, but I'm going to put it all over. I'm going to put it fairly thick. Depending on your glue, depending on your fabric, it may seep through. One way to keep that from happening would be to iron on some heat and bond to the fabric before you put the glue on, and then that will give your fabric just a little bit of extra what do you want to call it? Extra thickness to where the glue won't seep through. Now I'm going to take this and lay it down. I'm going to try to get it straight. If it doesn't get straight, that's fine, because I am going to be cutting this down to size. It's helpful to turn it over and press down as much as possible. If you do get some seepage, especially with the 3-in-1, you could always just kind of rub it off a little bit. Potentially you could use one of those glue erasers, those really tacky ones that people use. I don't have one, so I'm just gonna deal with this. If I didn't want the seepage, I would, not that I want the seepage, but if the seepage was a huge deal to me, I would have done the heat and bond. And you just take the heat and bond the proper size, you put it on your fabric and you iron it on, and then then you peel off the backing. That will give you some more sealant for that, so that glue will not come through. But because I'm going to cover this up with this as my spine, I think it'll be fine. If you don't like it, and you don't have anything to cover up your spine with, you could always paint your fabric, or you could use less glue. Or you could even double up. Well, I don't know if doubling up, because it would seep through the next layer, so probably wouldn't work out well. Just thinking. Okay, so this is 3 inches, my spine. I want at least 1 inch on each side, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is my fanciful ruler. I love this ruler. I'm going to take it and cut 1 inch. You know what? I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to do 1 1/4 inch, because I do want a gap. Excuse my head, if you can see my head. Okay, I'm going to line that up there. This is not the best knife. I am going to try to get it straight. If not, I'll use my scissors to help it out a little bit. But I'm going to cut off this excess. I'm going to do it gently and carefully. It is best to use a metal ruler, just because it's more stable, and you know, the plastic can be cut by a knife. So I'm doing 1 1/4. Doesn't have to be perfect. Matter of fact, I like when my things are not perfect, especially with fabric, because you can get it all tattered and it looks cool. Now on the top, I'm also going to do, well, I did 1 1/4 inches on each side. Now I'm going to do a 1 inch top and bottom. So because I have a 9 1/2 inch spine by 3 inch, my fabric should be, let's see, what's the math? I do 1 1/4 inch, so that's 2 1/2 inch plus 9 1/2 inch is, what's that, 12? Was that right? Sorry, I'm not a mathematician or even good at math at all. 9 1/2 plus 2 1/2. And then on the 3 inch side, I would do, no, that's not right. I'm sorry. Let me restart that. So 3 inch plus 1 1/4 plus 1 1/4 is 5 1/2 inches. And 9 1/2 inches plus 1 inch on top, 1 inch on bottom would be 11 1/2 inches. So my overall fabric piece, this is the board. My fabric is, so 9 1/2, 10 1/2, 11 1/2 by 3, 4, 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. Okay, so my board is 9 1/2 by 3. My fabric is 11 1/2 by 5. And it's okay to be tattered. I'm going to pull those off and move this stuff out of the way. Close up my knife. Be very careful. Do not cut yourself, please. Use a sharp knife. It's less likely that you'll get injured with a sharp knife than with a dull knife, because it'll do what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to do it. Now, what we're going to do is take this spine, and I'm going to set both of my books on the opposite sides. I have made red X's on each of these books so that I know that this side goes towards the spine. Let me move up a little bit so you can see everything. So I have my spine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that gap that I mentioned. Remember, I made these 1 1/4 inch so that I could have the gap. So that's what it's going to look like when it's together. I'm going to take my Fabri-Tac, well, 3-in-1. It's all the same, right? And you can see I've already done this process because this is the 3rd time I've videotaping this. It's fine. It's fine. So I'm going to put this glue on here. I'm going to smooth it out a wee bit. I'm going to move this out of the way because I am going to be turning this over in just a second. And I like Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1 because of the fact that you got a little bit of time to move things. So I lay that down, I leave my gap, and then I turn it over just to press it down like I did on the other, with the other book board for the spine. Press that down, press. And then, let me get this out of the way. Turn it back over. Does that look straight? Looks straight. You could use a little template in there. If you had a piece of thick board that was 1/4 inch, you could do that. I'm not that precise, so I'm not going to. And then I do, look, see, I messed it up. I'm going to take it off because I'm not standing over top of it to see. I'm going to turn it this way so I can make sure that it lines up better. So I'm going to redo that. And that's what happens when I craft, is that I mess things up. But it's fine. because I can redo it. Turn this over, rub it back down. That Fabri-Tac was still sticky, still wet, so I was able to just pull it off, rub it back down, and it's going to glue with a good grip. Let me make sure that's straight. Sorry, you can't see this. I'm just double checking. Okay, and now the other side. Grab my X. One of the things, I don't remember if I mentioned it in this video or the last one, but to prep these books, I did tear off those pages and I sanded down everything. I also sanded down the edges so that I could get some really good distress on those edges. So I sanded down the edges and then added some distress ink. And I'm doing the same thing on this side, and it's a little bit challenging to move that. You can see all the seepage there. It's fine because I'm going to cover it up. Make sure you get good contact on there, and these things are fine. I can just cut those right off. Okay, so there is the spine. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this inch, the fabric that we left an inch on, the top and bottom. I'm going to grab some scissors. I'm going to cut it because I want to fold it. Now hopefully my scissors work fine. Okay. So I'm going to cut little triangles in there just so I don't get a bulk of fabric build up when I flip it over. Can you? Yeah, I'm on camera. Good. This does not have to be precise. You're not going to see this. Now, you will, when you put your papers on, you will get a little bit of extra bulk where this extra fabric is. I'm going to turn this over so I can do the other side. And like I said earlier, this is to make sure that there's some stability. So right now, all we have connecting the spine to the book are these two pieces of this and this. That's it. Now, when we do this, we're going to have, let me turn this around. When we do this, we're going to have some more stability. So we're going to have this holding this. We're going to have more points of contact for this fabric. I'm going to put this glue all over this excess fabric. It's not excess, but this fabric that I want to tuck over. And then I'm going to start just moving it up. Now, when I fold this over, I want to get it as tight as possible. And I do that just by rubbing it upwards. Or, you know, if I were at the top, I would be pushing downwards, which you'll see in a minute. And you can also use a bone folder or a ruler or whatever you'd like to get that down there in the middle. So I want this to be, this little part right there to be folded over as well. So you could, I don't remember if I said you can use a bone folder, you can use this little stylus tool is what I use when I can't find my bone folder. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. I know I just saw it this morning. Or you could take a ruler. So I like to take this ruler and just crease it in there. Push it down on that fabric and make sure that it's nice and tight on there and glued down. And take whatever you have hanging out, because all you need is a little bit of pressure. Oop. Now see the other side, I put the glue on the fabric. This side I put it on the board. It doesn't matter either way. It'll be fine as long as you get that glue on there and that contact with the boards. I know a lot of people don't like to get the glue on their fingers, so you could always wear gloves during this process, or yeah, you could use, one thing I like to use would be this kind of tool, a little squeegee kind of thing. You can do that, and the glue comes right off this because it's a little silicone brush. You can use gloves if I didn't say that already. You could use a, let's see, a little card. So if you have like a little gift card or an old credit card that's no longer valid, you could use that too. So there's that. Now, if you have the 4 book boards and you aren't using the books that are already put together, then you'll do that 2 more times. Making sure that this is your biggest spine and you want it to be at least the measurement of these 2 spines put together. So 1.5 plus 1.5 equals 3, or whatever your measurements are. If you want these to be 2, 2 and 2, you can make this 4, whatever you'd like, however big you want your book. Sorry, that was loud. Let me dust off some of these things and we'll get started on decorating. So this is making me just like not want to play with this book. So I'm going to cover these up. Now, one thing I would say that you should do beforehand, which I've already sort of done, but I think I might undo, is reinforce these spines. If you have a book that you're tearing apart, you can notice that, you know, a lot of, especially older books, they're just the fabric. There's nothing underneath them to give them stability. So one thing I would suggest on these spines for the books that are already put together would be to put down some masking tape on them to strengthen them, or to put down some of the what's it called, Tyvek from the post office packages that you get in the mail. Those are really strong. Or you could put down some kind of tape that you like, some book board or not book board, excuse me, some book cloth, something to strengthen it up. So this right here is already covered, and it's, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna strengthen it, and I'm gonna put something in the middle. I hadn't planned for that, so give me a minute, and I'll figure out what I'm gonna put there. Let's see. I think I will put, I'm going to grab a different color cardstock, and I'm going to do that. Okay, so I have all of those cardstocks that I showed you in the first video, and some other papers that I've added. I'm going to pick one that I think will go with the grunginess of the whole thing. And I'll show you, let's see. These are the ones that I'm using to cover up these pages. So I've already chosen those. Let me move up a little bit so you can see. Some of these are digital kits. Some of these are just Tim Holtz. Some of these are part of the Remnants package. Yeah, so these are the ones that I'm going to be using. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to use this one in the middle to strengthen my spines. Let me move the rest of this stuff out of the way. So this is a process that you would use if you're not already putting together your spines. So if you're not the person that's using 4 book boards plus the 3 spines to start over fresh, then this is for you, because you're going to have a book where the spine is not as sturdy as it should be once you take all the paper and stuff out. So yep, this is for you. Now, one other thing that you could use to strengthen up these spines would be like a file folder. That would be great. So this is how I'm going to do it. I know that this spine is 1 1/4, approximately 1. So it's a little bit, yeah, 1 1/4. So I'm going to make it 2 1/4. So my cut right here is going to be 2 1/4 inch, so that I have some space on the side. Grab my paper cutter real quick. And let's see. I can just put a little mark here to cut it to be the right size. So let me move this up so you can see it a little bit better. There's my book. Here's my paper. I don't want it all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, so I'm not going to measure it at 9 1/2 inches like my cover. I'm just going to take this that I already have inside, and I'm going to measure it by that. So basically I'm going to take off, let's see, 1/4 inch from what my cover is. So it's approximately 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 inch on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this portion. All right. And then what I say? I said 2 1/4 inch. I'm going to make it 2 1/2 inch just to be on the safe side. Let me open up. Oh, I guess I don't need to open that, do I? Okay. 2.5 inch is what we're doing. Okay, there's one for that spine. And another 2.5 inch for my other spine. And you know what? This is 3 inches in my middle. So I can go ahead and cover that up too so that it matches. And I will do this one. So if it's 3 inches, I'll put at least an inch on the others on each side. So I'll do 5 inches for my middle. So let me explain that because that was a little quick. So this spine is approximately 1.25 inches. So I just went ahead and cut out 2.5 inch covering, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down in the middle. I'm going to use this as a decoration piece. So it needs to cover the middle plus come over some, kind of just like our fabric did here, so that it's stable. And then same thing for this one. So I'm going to put that in the middle, and I'm going to I'm going to glue it down. I'm going to make sure it goes in all the creases, and then I'm going to have a little bit of stability on each side of the spine, so that it gives the spine a little bit more oomph. And then the same thing for here. 1.25 inch. I cut out 2.5 inch so that it could go down and have a little bit of space on the side. And then when we put our papers together, this will go over top of it. So this will also give it a little bit more strength, because it'll be glued down on top of it to keep it in place. So that's how we're going to do right now. All right. I'll fold this one up. And what did I do with my stylus? There it is. Okay. Again, here you can use the 3-in-1 glue. You could potentially use hot glue if you can get it to be flat enough to not dry before you got it on. You know, you don't want it to be bulging up in any spots. So if you're that good with a hot glue gun, you could do that. You could use tacky glue or whatever glue, just like with your fabric, whatever's your favorite. So I'm going to put this down in the middle. I'm going to take my stylus and I'm going to put it in my creases. Try not to poke a hole through your paper. Probably should have ruffled this up a little bit beforehand so it's more pliable, but fold that over there to get it down in those creases, and then I'm going to fold this over top. Now, there is a potential for me not to get this straight, which is what I've done, and that's not what I was going to say. There is a potential for this to be become a little bit bulky, is what I'm trying to say. And that's possible, especially on mine, because I've already put down some bulk in the middle there. So just know that if you want the stability in the middle, but you don't want extra bulk, you could always put down fabric, a thinner fabric. I chose to put this paper down because I want the decorative aspect of it. But you could totally put down some fabric and just grunge up the fabric. I'm going to bend this the opposite direction. So we want to make sure that you get it in the creases. Bend it up so that, you know, it goes along with how the book folds and closes. And then if you're having any issues keeping down, like this side, I put it down where it wasn't straight, of course. So there's less on this side than there is on this side. But you could always, since this is going to be covered up, you can just make sure you get it in the creases. And then you could put some, you could hold this side down with a little bit of tape. So put a little bit of tape on there, and then when you cover it up, that will also give it more stability. So like when you put down, when I put down a sari silk closure on any of my books, I'll put it down, I'll glue it down, and then I'll put tape over top of it, and then I'll put the cover over top of it. The decorative portion of the book, and that just gives it a little bit more stability. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm rubbing off this excess glue. That's one thing I like about Fabri-Tac. It just, if you get extra on, you can just rub it right off. Okay. So see how that keeps popping up because I got way too much over here and not enough over there. It's fine because the decoration is still there. It doesn't have to be straight because I didn't choose a paper that needed to be perfect. So I'm going to take some... Well, I thought I would take some masking tape, but I don't know what I've done with it. So I'm going to take some of this double-sided tape, maybe, if this is what I'm thinking it. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I can use that. So I'm going to put that there to stabilize that paper. And this is just a double-sided tape. It's got like a fabric kind of texture to it. You see it? Maybe not fabric, but kind of like a screened texture to it. So I'm just going to use that. I think that's a good idea. You could use masking tape or whatever just to make sure that it's stable. And then once I go ahead and put the decorative paper on there, I'll peel this back side off so that it has more stick. Probably should have done that all the way down. I'm going to do that now. Maybe I'll do it proper this time. Okay. And you can take your bone folder to put that down. But I can't find mine, so it's fine. It's fine. All right. There's that, and then See how much more stability that gave that? It's on there. It's good. Okay. Now, for this piece, I think I'm going to maybe score it. Let me find my scoreboard. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to score this a little bit, just because it makes it a little bit easier to get on there. So this is almost centered. So that's 1.5, and then 1/4 of an inch, and then 1.5 and 1/4 of an inch. It's about there. So what I've just done is just remember, it's going to be 3 my spine is 3 inches, and so oops, my spine is 3 inches plus I did that 1/4 of an inch. So I just did that to make it go into those creases a little bit better. Let's see how that works out. And I'm pretty sure I did not measure that proper, which is not surprising. Okay, let's see. This is not a tutorial, just so you know. I'm doing this as a project. I'm trying to help you show you what I'm doing, but I'm also going to just learn as I go. Oops. Learn not to do that. Don't poke holes through your paper. But if you do, it's okay. You can cover it up. You could put some tape or something down that on that. My ideal for this was to make sure that I could get that paper down in there without it buckling or bowing or, you know, cracking. But I measured it wrong, so. And that is, I'm just checking, this has writing on it, so because it has writing on it, I'm going to put it down proper. I know my bone folder was just here. There it is. See? I knew it. So I'm folding this into the creases. So that it's covering everything. Because if I don't fold it into those creases, oops, that's where if I don't fold it into those creases, then it's not going to close proper, and it's going to pull the paper like so if I don't do it proper and I go to open it, it's going to just rip that paper up off of there. So that's why I want to get it really good in those creases. And then glue it up good. Sorry, this is taking a lot longer than I expected. Probably because I've started over 5 times. It's fine. Okay. And then I'm going to put a little bit more glue in here. And then I'm going to do that tape on this side also. Just because I think that'll be good. Good stability for it. Okay. Sorry if I'm quiet, I start singing, so I'm trying to talk so you guys don't have to hear me. There's that goopy goop coming out. I'll get it off in a minute. Push this side down. Okay. I'm going to put that tape on there off screen. You don't need to see that again. And I'll do this last one. You see where I had put masking tape on there and put a file folder in there, but when I started ripping stuff up, it just came out, which is fine. Let's see. Instead of having to measure, maybe I can just fold it. See, there I go. Oops. Okay. With the books too, if you don't like the color of your book that you've chosen, or you don't like the color of the spine or whatnot, you can always paint it. Paint around the edges, cover it up with some paper like we're doing now, and you'll never know. Or you could sand it down like I did some of the edges on here and distress it, ink it up. Well, that didn't. What's happening? Let me get this whatever it's called, glue off my hands. I'll fold this in. Okay. So that seemed to work good. Instead of scoring it, you could just fold it up. Make sure it's in there good. Press your bone folder in there. Get them in those creases. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just taking my bone folder and going in with it into those creases so that it's in there. And then I'll tape that down. I'm going to use all my glue. I've recorded this so many times, and I've used glue every single time. Yep. This one probably should have been longer. So if you haven't cut your paper yet and you're watching this, I would maybe cut these a little bit longer on these on these sides for the book that we're stabilizing. This side's good, but I keep going short on the opposite side. So maybe cut it maybe an inch bigger than what I initially said. I think I went, we have a 1 1/4 inch spine, and I cut it at 2 1/2 inch. So maybe cut it at 3 1/2 inch, and that will give you plenty of space to get that tacked down without having to do the extra tape. So I'm going to have to do tape on this side to tack it down, which is a good ideal either way, but I have to because it's too short. So there's that. So I'm doing this tape to make sure that it's stable underneath the paper that we put on. I wouldn't have to put it down on this side, but just because it does provide extra support, I will. So I don't want that paper to come up. Put those scissors down. I don't need those at this moment. I don't need that stuck to my fingers either. Thank you. Okay. Put a little bit more tape on this side right here that I forgot to do at the top. Okay. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. Sorry, I just hit that camera. Do apologize. All right, so next thing is we've got our spines on. Oh my goodness. We've got our spines on. They are stable, and this is how it's going to look. Well, there we go. So that's going to be the insides, and we'll do some flips and tucks and stuff like that. Now, because I did do a 3-inch spine, it is a little bit bigger than the front, and you can see the difference in the size, which is perfectly fine. Because when I close it, it's going to close completely, which is what I want. Sorry, that's really bright. That's just the back. And there's the book together. It's pretty big. Next will be to, sorry, I'm just going to show you what I'm thinking for the front. These will be decorated, but that'll be the front. Next I'm going to cover up the insides. So I'm going to get this book pretty so that it's more inviting to work in. You can go ahead and measure out your pages that you want to put in and wait until you figure out how you want to add things in. Like say if you wanted to have, say you wanted, this was a piece that you wanted here and you wanted to hinge it, but you didn't want the hinge to show. So you would put a fabric hinge or paper hinge here, probably fabric hinge. And then you could glue the hinge down, and then you could glue the paper down after that so that your hinge is underneath the paper, which will provide stability as well as make it look nicer. So you can do that. I, however, am going to go ahead and cover this up because I just really don't like looking at it the way that it is because I've torn it apart. So you can do it along with me the way that I'm doing it, or you can just cut your pieces. So decide where your pieces are going to go and then put them there later. So keep them in a basket with the elements that we'll make, and then you can decide where you're going to put everything up. These are the pieces that I have decided to put in. So they will be, let me see. Yeah, I think I'll do them in that order. So I'm just going to measure, I'm going to cut, and I'm going to glue. And then we'll finish, and then we'll start a new video later this week or early next week. So the way that I'm going to measure it is, actually I'm just going to do it proper this time. How about that? How about I just proper measure? You don't have to if you don't want to, but I am going to measure it to be the same height as this original paper. If you don't want to do it that way, or you don't have the original paper on there, then you can just measure your cover and then do like 1/8 of an inch off the top and off the bottom to give this exposure if you want. I would recommend doing that. So this is 9 1/4 inches, and I want it 6 1/2. So 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. I'm going to write that here. 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. And that's about, I have no idea. Why does it go backwards? If I could just say 9 1/4 was 23 centimeters, that would be awesome, but I can't because it measures it this way, and then in centimeters it measures it this way, so it's not going to be accurate. Sorry. So I can't tell you centimeters, and I haven't throughout the video, and I apologize about that. I'll try to correct that in the next videos for anybody that's watching outside the United States. Okay, so 9 1/4 inch by 6 1/2 inch. And that's how much, that's the size. Now remember that both of my books are the same book, but they're by different publishers. So I'm just going to double check that that's what I want. Yep, 6 1/2. Nine 1/4. So that's the same book. Obviously, it's going to be the same measurement. Now let's see. This one is going to be, yep, 9 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. Yep. So I'm just going to measure 1. Okay. Let me see if I can. So for each piece, I'm going to measure 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to start out with those 4 just because I'm not quite sure about the sizes on those. So 4 pieces of my cardstock, I'm going to cut 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's see. I just need to decide if I want, which side of the paper I want, because obviously, which part? Do I want that lettering? Or do I want that? Man, I'll just do the lettering. How about that? Okay, deciding. Going with the lettering. Here we go. So I'll make sure all of these are in the right direction. Okay. This one doesn't really have a right direction. And then that one. Okay. All right. Here's my paper cutter. Probably should have moved these first, huh? It's fine. Okay, so my paper cutter is a good size. I'm going to be able to cut all of these at the same time. So if you cannot, just do one at a time. And I said 9 1/4. So I'm making sure that lines up. Hopefully that's an accurate statement that I can cut all these at the same time. Whew, that was a workout. Maybe I should just do 3 at a time, but I'm just going to do it. 9 1/4 by 6 1/2. Should be easier this way because I'm pulling towards myself. Okay. Woo. All right. There we go. So now what we're going to do is, you can distress these before you put them on. You can distress them after. However you want. I'm going to distress them after because I want the distressing to be on this also. I'm going to take that tape off. The tape backing off anyways. You could use double-sided tape for all of this if you want to do all that work, but it seems like a lot. If you have a lot of double-sided tape to use up and not a lot of glue, then go forth and prosper. Again, with the watching the glue, I know it's exhilarating. All right, and here we go. Sorry if my head gets in there. Try not to put my head in there. I think that's good. Push it down. Okay, and remember with Fabri-Tac, if you need to move it a little bit, you got a little bit of time, which is really, really nice. Alright, I'm going to take all this tape off. Hopefully I can figure out how to speed up some. Oh man, that was not smart. Okay, let's see if I can correct my error. My 9 millionth error of the day. There we go. Okay. So I had put the other piece of tape over top of the backing. I should have taken the backing off of that part of the tape before I put another piece of tape on it, like a silly willy. All right, here goes my head. Sorry. That tape does not give you any time. No time. You get none. So as soon as you put it down on double-sided tape, you're done. That's it. So it's fine. Okay, here we go. Need to add some acetone to my glue. You could paint some tacky glue on here if you want to get it smooth. Okay, don't get me tape. Okay. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera. I apologize. I won't do that anymore. Okay, this is the last one on the inside. I wonder if I should have just used this other side. Oh no, that's the same side as that. Nope. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is the inside. That's our big spine. And then I'll grunge that up. And then let's do this last thing here. Should I do that? I think I'll use this leftover piece because, oh no, actually I have pieces that I already want there. Here we go. I'm going to have these two be the same. That's what I was thinking for that. Okay, so with these ones, I'm just going to show you how to mark them. Okay, so I'm going to put it on there where I want, and then I'm going to give myself a little bit of space down here and a little bit of space up here. I'm going to mark it there, and I'm going to mark it there. And then I'm going to just come over to this side. I'm going to put it back on there how I want it. I'm going to mark it there, and I'm going to mark it there. And then I'm going to bring my paper cutter back up. Turn it this way, make sure it's straight, line up my line, cut it off. Okay, and then, did I cut off my, where's my other line? Oh, there it is. I thought I cut off my other line, which would have been real smart. Okay, and there's my other line. So that will go right there. And then this one, let me find my lines. Here we go. Oops. I think I cut that too short. It's fine. Okay. Okay. Now, this will go in here. I'm going to turn this to go this way. And that's what that's going to look like inside. So I'm going to glue those together. I don't think you guys need to see me gluing anymore. But that's what our lapbook is going to look like. For now, I'm going to glue these in. I'm going to just go around some of the edges with some distress ink. And then tomorrow we'll come back, well, sometimes this week or early next week, I'll come back and move on to the next process. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for stopping by. Sorry about all my errors, but I hope you learned something. And by the way, do not feel like you have to have all the same items as I do, all the same digitals, all the same paper. Do this whatever way that you want. I just want you to see how I'm doing it, how I'm putting it together, what my ideals are, and then maybe you'll be inspired to craft. All right, you have a great day.